Hello and welcome to Real Menopause Talk. My guest today is Kate Rowe-Ham. Kate is a busy woman. She's a mother of 3, a wife, a personal trainer and a very active one, and she runs her own business, Owning Your Menopause. All this, and she's refreshing to talk to, down to earth, open and honest. She makes no secret of the fact that she struggled initially with perimenopause, even as a healthy, fit woman at the time. Furthermore, like most of us, her transition through this phase is not as linear and smooth as she might like, but she now knows what to do when she hits a rough patch, and she goes all in helping herself. Her goal is to help as many women as she can move through all the way to post-menopause, feeling strong, in control, fit and healthy. In this episode, we talk about her perimenopause, the fundamentals of fitness and overall health, how to get started, and how to embrace it as part of your happy, healthy lifestyle. It is lovely to see you, Kate, and have the opportunity to have a good conversation about fitness and menopause and all things related.
Yes, especially as we are on the run up to Christmas as well.
Yes.
Never so more is it more important to focus on our fitness.
Exactly. Tell everybody, please, Kate, a little bit about you.
So I am I often say menopause fitness coach, but I think realistically, what determines a menopause fitness coach? I think I am a menopausal woman who is passionate about educating other women to use fitness and diet to manage many of their symptoms. And the reason I say menopause fitness coach is because I am a PT and experienced my own issues managing many of my symptoms, and found that what I was doing in my day-to-day life and my fitness routine was exacerbating many of those. So I did 2 or 3 courses that were out there and available on training specifically at this time, then implemented that into my own routine and found that it changed everything. So all I wanted to do was to share that with other women. So I'm a menopause fitness coach who has trialed, and I'm not going to say errored because there is no error, but trialed all of the things that I talk about and share in order to help other women manage their menopause through, as I say, lifestyle changes, exercise, diet on a more holistic level.
How did you come to do what you're doing now then?
So rewind. I started actually as a PT and started my training for busy mums at home. So it was always about, I guess, helping other women manage difficult life stages and having children and trying to exercise and fit that in when managing a home is one of those, obviously, along with menopause. And I couldn't really find anyone that resonated with me. I wasn't confident enough to go to a gym. I didn't really want to go to a gym. I didn't have childcare. So like many women, I was at home with baby, wanting to get fit again and didn't know what to do. So I did try doing Joe Wicks for a while, and he was brilliant and got my motivation back. But I was like, how do we empower other women? How do we reach other women who might be feeling like I did to work out? And that's when I then started my free Instagram workouts, of which I think I've probably done to date over 1,500 free Instagram workouts in the last 4 years.
Wow.
And what was lovely was Rupert would do those workouts with me. So a lot of my followers feel, they've got a really slightly special relationship with Rupert because they have seen him grow over the last 4 years with me. I'll be there doing mountain climbers with him on my back, but keeping it real and keeping it relatable so that other women could join in. And that's sort of where it started. Then obviously, fast forward, ploughed into perimenopause, and I couldn't keep up with what I was doing and I didn't know why. And that's when I discovered it was perimenopause.
How did you discover perimenopause and how has it been for you so far?
So it's funny because I'm about to do a post actually on that. So how's it been for me? So I discovered my perimenopause through crippling joint aches and pains, terrible night sweats, horrific anxiety and breathlessness. So those were my main symptoms. And I thought that I was dying, if I'm honest with you. It sounds really far-fetched, but I think for a lot of women coming into this stage as well, we begin to question every ache and pain.
Mm-hmm.
We know we've got so many people relying on us. We do worry that it might be something else. And because I didn't know what perimenopause was, and everyone who had been telling me, well, it won't be because at 42 you're too young. I assumed the worst. So I rang my doctor, my GP. They diagnosed me with depression, sent me for chest x-rays, ECGs, asthma checks, all of these sorts of things. Said my joint aches and pains were probably because I was working out too much. Very little guidance on perimenopause. So I did actually end up going privately, only because I did the research myself and realized that it was possibly perimenopause. So I started my HRT, although I did look at my HRT for 3 months because I was a little bit scared to take it. I think that resonates again with a lot of women when I say that. And I didn't realize at the time when I took my HRT that actually the options available to me in managing my menopause holistically, because no one had really explained that to me. And obviously when I qualified as a personal trainer, there was no section on women training in menopause. Yes, you can go off and do a pre and postnatal course, which I always find really intriguing, but there was nothing talking about what happens to women when they go through a decline or a hormone deficiency. That's what then I set out to do. And I looked at my lifestyle changes and I looked at how I was exercising and I put it all into practice. And that's where I am now. However, it's not linear, is it?
No.
As we know, this HRT journey. And at the moment, it's not really working for me, but I'm managing my symptoms the best way I know how, which is through diet and exercise. And so I'm really glad that I found that tool, because for women who might be on HRT and have a blip like I am, I know that it will be okay. It's going to be okay. But what do I do now to help myself? And that's currently what I'm doing. So I've been for a lovely walk this morning. I've done some exercise. I'm currently totally no sugar, simply because my anxiety has come back. They think I'm not absorbing patches. Also, I'm having bleeds all the time. So that's been under investigation. We're hoping to get the Mirena coil fitted, which we think will solve that problem. But it's really important, I think. This is why I would want this conversation. And I thank you, Hattie, for having me on to raise awareness around the importance of how can you help yourself now? What can we do? What tools do we have to hand to manage our menopause from the get-go?
I couldn't agree more. And HRT is so heavily in the news and in the media. And as we all know, it has a very significant place for a huge number of women. However, it isn't linear. It isn't plain sailing. I tried it myself last year, and it just turned out that it isn't the right time for me, or wasn't at that moment, and it didn't work. So I had to look much more deeply at diet, and was happy with the exercise I was doing, but a few other tweaks to lifestyle, definitely. So I don't want to write off HRT by any stretch, and reserve the right to change my mind as and when I feel like it, and when my body feels like maybe it needs something extra. But going in holistically, because HRT can also take a couple of months to kick in, is an invaluable tool and part of the jigsaw puzzle. So even if you're really happy with HRT, what else can you do?
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point. Like, you're saying that it does take a couple of months to work. I also think it's really important that we remember that if you take HRT, for a woman that perhaps has experienced significant weight gain through her menopause journey, HRT is not going to help you lose weight, just as it's not going to put on weight, because there are the two sides. Again, there's always that conversation that comes up.
Mm-hmm.
If you are at an increased weight, you are by default at an increased risk, obviously, of heart disease, of type 2 diabetes, of high blood pressure. So again, it's looking at how can we manage all of those things. And again, Hattie, let's not forget we've got osteoporosis as well that we can add to the mix there. So therefore, exercise is hugely important. So strength training in particular for women at this stage is key. I see a lot of women who are training and they're doing HIIT. HIIT most definitely has its place. That's high intensity interval training. But it's a blanket prescription. And what the wonderful thing about HIIT is that through lockdown, it was enabling families to work out together of all ages. But what it has done is I've seen many women come to me with more aches and pains because they've put such a massive pressure on their body. They've also driven up their cortisol levels, because that's essentially what our body does when it's under stress. And that's the impact of what happens when you do HIIT. Take into account depleting estrogen levels, where your cortisol level rises even further. You're then just a sort of big ball of cortisol, as it were, which can put you into adrenal fatigue, And those symptoms are very similar to menopausal symptoms, actually aches and pains, tiredness, loss of libido. So the two kind of run side by side. So looking at how you're exercising is really key. And that's where strength training, yoga, Pilates, bar, walking, cycling, just lovely movement can really have a massive impact alongside something that is massively critical is your diet, because you can't out-train a bad diet.
And cortisol levels, if they're too high, can also impact your sleep if it's at the wrong time as well, so that you can't then produce enough melatonin. And insomnia is yet another very common symptom. With regards to osteoporosis and weight training and lifting, I'm a massive fan of lifting heavy, and I am not afraid to lift as heavy as I possibly can, because I know through years and years and years of trying to build muscle, it's not that easy. But there are plenty of women who are nervous about lifting anything significant. How do you address their fears?
Yeah, do you know what? It's a really good point, Hattie. I think what's important to remember, there's two sort of elements here, is that our bone density is at its maximum at the age of 30. So essentially anything we've done, that colourful past that you've had before the age of 30, determines sort of where our bone density sits at 30 when our bone mass starts to decrease. So really from about the age of 30, we want to be lifting weights in order to help increase our bone density. Our muscle mass also decreases from around about the age of 35 at 3 to 5% per year. So again, we are fighting against the aging process in building that muscle. The reality is, as you've just said, we aren't going to bulk up because our body is naturally decreasing in both of those elements. Obviously, specifically muscle here is what we're talking about, the onsets of sarcopenia. So you just need to keep lifting heavy. And actually somebody asked me this question the other day: what happens? Do you just keep going and keep going? And I'm like, well, yeah, because, there's a point at which you might plateau, but also it's like there's a hole in my bucket. It's just one bucket just keeps emptying. You've got to keep filling it, because, if your bucket was full under the age of 30 and you've got all that estrogen, of course you're going to keep building muscle and muscle and muscle and muscle. And the chances are you will build more muscle if you are under the age of 30, because that's the way it happens. But over the age of kind of 35, when that is depleting, we've got to keep filling it up.
And it is possible to build muscle over the age of 40. It's just not as simple as picking up something really heavy once or twice.
So I think that's key as well. It is important that you find a routine that incorporates strength training, weight training 2 to 3 times a week, ideally 3 to 4 times a week if you can, which is really difficult because there are a lot of women out there that love running. And I get messages saying, I really love running. Should I stop running? One thing, don't ever stop something you love. Please don't ever stop something you love, but try adding. And I think that's the thing with this midlife journey and menopausal journey is we're always looking at things that are being taken away from us. Don't drink alcohol, don't eat sugar. Start thinking about actually what can you add to make things better, rather than it always being a negative of taking away, which actually I can tell you taking sugar and alcohol away is not a negative by any stretch of the imagination. Once you get your head around it, I know it sounds like it for many people, but it's not. But think about what you can add to what you're currently doing to make it more efficient and effective, especially with midlife women being so time poor, because that's the key, is that so many women will say, well, I don't have time. And actually that's because sometimes the time that you've got, you're just not doing the right thing with the time you're given. So think about, with that time I'm given, what can I add or just sort of replace to make that time work, to make this fitness and wellbeing journey, spot on so that you can thrive.
Running gets a bad reputation for raising cortisol as in the same way that HIIT does. But if you love it, it's very different from forcing yourself out to run and have a miserable time. So if you love it, I don't believe the cortisol has the same effect or even rises as high, because you're in a state of pleasure, which is what we all need.
Yeah, it's a steady sort of state with running, unless you're then going uphill or you're doing fartleks or you're doing sprints and you're doing this, essentially a lovely steady run. And there is something else called LISS, which is a low intense steady state. And that's walking at a really fast pace for 45 minutes, or a light jog, or all of these things. And like you say, when those endorphins are there, that's the time to do it. And actually today I wanted to go for a run, to be honest with you, but I do know that my anxiety is bad and I didn't want to sort of make it any worse. So I went for an hour's proper fast-paced walk instead, which I know is gentler on my mind, gentler on my body. And actually with the beautiful sun that we've got outside today, it was lovely just to soak up a little bit more vitamin D.
With the sugar and the alcohol in mind, particularly as we said earlier, coming up to Christmas, what are your strategies for eliminating it with the mindset of adding?
Like what, alcohol?
And sugar, because there's a world of mince pies and Christmas cakes, certainly in the UK anyway, that are about to flood through the door. And then the wine.
I know. Well, first and foremost, enjoy it. Okay, let's enjoy Christmas. But the way to enjoy Christmas is to not have that self-guilt of overindulgence, which we all sometimes have. I would say if you are choosing to drink over Christmas, lots of water. So one wine, one water, one wine, one water. I know that maybe when you're on your third wine, that water might be really unappealing, but keep rehydrating is what I would say, just so that the next day you can try to avoid those sugary cravings that come with having had too much alcohol because of our insulin levels being subjected to this massive flush of sugar from that alcohol. In terms of, mince pies, have one. We don't need to have two. There is no need for us to have two. And still fill up your plate with protein. So on Christmas Day, fill it up with the turkey and the Brussels sprouts and the whatever else anyone eats. Obviously the potatoes too and the parsnips. But just think about how you want to feel at the end of the day. Like, I also think it's that thing where what I want women to do is to get to a place where for 365 days of the year, we are nourishing our bodies sensibly. So we don't look at the festive period, or we don't look at, a weekend as a binge time, because I think that's the mentality that we all seem to set ourselves up for. Let's binge over Christmas and eat loads of chocolate oranges and we'll just put it to right in January. But actually, if you can go through Christmas just being mindful and just eating normally, you'll come out the other side and hit January with the ground running, feeling great and ready. And it won't be this kind of, oh, I've got to starve myself in January. I've got to get on this fitness wagon in January, rather like we do with I guess, the summer. It's the cyclical thing that we do, rather like our hormones. It's winter, woolly jumpers, lots of good food, Christmas, overindulge. Okay, let's hit it January, February. Then we take our foot off the pedal slightly. And then suddenly it's summer and we need to get these bikini bodies. I don't believe in a bikini body. What about finding a place where for 365 days of the year, it's just that. There's no, I've got to do this for that or this for that. You're doing you for 365 days of the year.
For a lot of women, that's going to be a pipe dream or feel like it. They're very used to and conditioned almost to the cycle of deprivation and indulgence and deprivation and indulgence, which is hard to break. In owning your own menopause, you have a family, a household, and a business, and maintain fitness and health, and you're working through perimenopause. So no mean feat. How would you encourage and support the women around you to just dive into this 365 days a year of feeling really good?
Yeah, so it's a tough one, and I don't take away any of the fact that some of the symptoms of menopause can leave women feeling completely and utterly crippled and unable to turn any which way. They don't know the way out. What I would say is start, because we are all so capable of making excuses and we are really good at procrastinating. I hear from a lot of women who say, but the problem is they're not giving themselves an opportunity to try. And once you start and you feel the benefits, it then just rolls on and rolls on and rolls on and gets better and better and better. So do it in small, achievable, sustainable chunks. So we forget the 365 days of the year. And let's remember, I did this with alcohol. I had intentions of doing a dry January 2 years ago. So it's about setting achievable targets. So again, not getting into that yo-yo pattern, but going, okay, for January, this is what I'm going to do. And then roll that over to February, and then roll that over to March, and then just keep going with it. It takes 30 days to break a habit. Some people say 21. I like to go with 30. So give it your best shot for 30 days. Write down how you're feeling and go from there. The problem with the yo-yo pattern is it's how much do you want it? Really, that is the ultimate thing at the end of the day. How much do you want to change? And nobody else can do that for you. you're the one that has to get up in the morning and work out. You're the one that has the choices of what food goes on the table. So it is in your hands. You have absolutely everything there. And that's what I hope to do, is to give women the tools that they need to use it. But I can only give them the tools. What they do with them is up to them. And that's the message that I really want women to take on board. And of course, in Owning Your Menopause, they are fully supported on that journey. So there's a check-in every day, so we all communicate with each other. We all share. There are live workouts. There's the option to talk to GPs, nutritionists. There's sleep. There's mindfulness. We cover every single aspect of the menopause in order to help and support this woman holistically on her journey.
Can you talk us through the app then and how it works?
Yes. So there are live workouts every day. That does include yoga, Pilates, and as I say, mindfulness. So there's something every day to get you moving, for you to feel like you've got connection with other people in the community. We have lovely Dr. Katie Armstrong, who comes on once a month and does a webinar for us, talking any topics that might have come up in menopause. And then obviously the gorgeous and wonderful Naomi Potter. Very privileged to have her. Also, she comes in and chats to us every 3 months. And that again is a live Q&A. We have Anna Goff, who does our mindfulness. She's the most incredible breathwork expert. We have Katie Screen, who does our nutrition. And actually at the moment, which people may miss because of this, the timing is a mind body boost. So it's a 7-day sort of pre-Christmas setup, but we are doing a 3-week one in January. So that is a handheld, let's get you set up for the rest of the year program, not so that you can get set up for 3 weeks and then drop off. It's so that you can put into place some of the key principles in those 3 weeks that will hopefully have you on track for a really good 2023. But Hattie, it's just an amazing community of women just championing each other and getting stronger. And, the messages that I get, or the testimonials that I get, are from women like you, like me, who didn't know where to start. Let's not forget, I didn't know where I was. And I've worked my way out, and now that's what I'm trying to help other women to do. And I think the other thing that a lot of us do, and I did something on this morning, is we compare ourselves a lot as women. So to any woman listening who again thinks, well, it's all right for you, you can go off and do that. And fitness wise, as Hattie said, I live a very busy life, as we all do, but I've stopped comparing myself to other people. And I now know that my fitness and wellbeing journey is my own. I also know that I'm not going to look like anybody else other than me. So what does the best version of me feel like, and what does the best version of me look like? And that is my focus.
That is such a wise way of looking at things. It feels like it's been the theme of the week, is comparison and how ruinous it can be. Sometimes it's quite useful just to give you a check as to what you might need to be doing to maybe up your game, or maybe you're just doing exactly what you need to for you. You're always going to find somebody who is struggling more or who is more successful, depending on where you look. So yes, no comparison.
Sorry, I was going to say with the fitness mama journey as well, everybody has to start somewhere, and we don't know where anybody is on that journey.
That's so true. And community is so important wherever you are in whatever you're doing. Having other shared experience around you that you can relate to has been proven to be invaluable. So it sounds amazing. At this time of year, there's an awful lot of focus on joy and festivity and fun. It can also be a very challenging time of year for a lot of people. What brings you joy?
Oh, what brings me joy? My family, I have to say, brings me enormous joy. Although they would probably go, well, you spend so much time helping other people. But they do. But they're teenagers. They want to go off and do their own thing anyway. It's that brilliant thing where they always want my time, and then I'll be doing something, and then they'll want my time when it's, what it's like. It's never in kilter. But no, my family bring me immense joy. I think that looking after my body brings me immense joy, because for so many years I didn't look after it, and I hated it, and I beat it up. And again, that journey still isn't linear. So I don't want anyone to think, well, I'm there like loving myself every day. Trust me, I have dark days, but I have good days. And so joy is looking after myself, because in order to look after everybody else, I need to look after myself. And I would say it's those two things, really. I suppose family and making sure that I'm at the top of my game to look after them.
I always say that to people. It's quite hard to follow yourself sometimes, much easier to offer advice to other people, but say that, yes, when you look after yourself, you're in a much stronger position to be able to look after other people. Rounding up then, I suppose, what is the greatest lesson that perimenopause is currently teaching you?
The greatest lesson, that I have so much more to give, that I'm so much stronger than I thought I was when I started this journey, because I was ready to give up on everything about 2 years ago, myself included, and I didn't. And so I guess that has been my perimenopause learning. But even now and every day, I want to push more and I want to help more women. And so my perimenopause is teaching me that I'm stronger than I have ever been.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kate.
Thank you so much, Hattie. Have a good afternoon. I'll speak to you soon.
You too. Take care, Kate. Thank you.
Take care.
You can find Kate on Instagram at KateRH_fitness or at Owning Your Menopause, and her website owningyourmenopause.com. The website will also take you to the app, or you can find it on the App Store, but for the best deal around, go via the website. As usual, I will put all the details in the show notes. Follow us on the podcast app of your choice and sign up to the newsletter to stay up to date with all the new episodes and a few extras as well. Simply go to the website, realmenopausetalk.com, scroll down and click subscribe, and leave us a review on the iTunes website, as it makes all the difference. For those of you who celebrate it and who are listening at the time of release, I wish you all a very happy, peaceful and joyful Christmas. Thank you for listening. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.